The amendment should be revoked by the vice president, and we have a responsibility to speak the truth. Democrats own this, but it is dangerous beyond measure. House Speaker Mike Johnson weighing in on this idea with voters last week.
This is a very serious moment in American history, and it needs to be regarded and handled. And we hope that they will do their duty, as we all seek to duty to do best by the American people. These are fateful moments. If I were in cabinet, in the Biden administration now in a cabinet, I would be having that discussion with my colleagues at the cabinet level.
Republican Senator Tom Tillis has also introduced a similar measure in the upper chamber.
They're calling for Biden to resign.
Democrats grow frustrated the longer President Biden stays in this race. It's unlikely, Bob,
they're calling
that this
for
is a
the
scenario
25th Amendment.
And not all Republicans support this. Some Republicans favor President Biden staying in the race long enough to have a rematch debate with the former president.
Yes. Thank you, Kimberly Ducart, to weigh in. Let's bring in attorney and Republican strategist.
Very interesting.
Ford, you're an attorney. Any insight you have, feel free to share it as far as the Fifth Amendment. I mean, the 25th Amendment exists when a majority of cabinet officials, upper level of the executive branch, decide with the vice president that this president can no longer do the duty associated with that job.
75% of Americans say he can no longer.
Will go to the president, and then Biden can say, I'm fine, back off. So this becomes a little bit of a game, and it could be a dangerous one for somebody like Kamala Harris. She doesn't want to get Biden mad at her if she wants his blessing when he does drop out, because it's going to drop out.
Yes, Biden has to.
This is the political cover-up of the.
There's no way Biden can stay in the race.
The Fifth Amendment should have been invoked. No one voted for Joe Biden for president of the United States, and frankly, Joe Biden is a clear and present danger to America and Americans. It's not China and Russia quit just because Joe Biden needs a nap at 8 p.m. But the bottom line is, Bob, you're right. Joe Biden will be jettisoned from the ticket by the end of next week. Frankly, I'm not so keen on the idea of America getting comfortable with Kamala Harris was, 4 months ago president. I think that could be a political problem.
Tell me why.
Because the idea of American voters getting comfortable with Kamala as president makes it much harder campaign trail. I'm rooting for Joe Biden to basically stay in office and to remain at the top of the ticket politically speaking, because this race is static. Donald Trump has already defined Joe Biden, and Joe Biden has helped him out by basically proving to the American public he's seen. So therefore, this race is not going to change as long as Joe Biden's still at the top of the ticket.
Yeah, and I've heard that from more Republicans recently. It's like, wait a minute, be careful what you wish for, because I think people would say if Joe Biden is at the top of the ticket, Joe Biden will lose. And my thoughts are kind of like your support. When it comes to Kamala Harris, it's almost, to me, like it would never get worse than where she is now. Because it's almost like nobody stands up, yet in the polls, she's within single digits. If they spend 4 months trying to rehabilitate her and redefine what they need to fix, like the border, maybe that is a tougher opponent than one.
Well, that's exactly right. Let's go the devil you know versus one you don't. And that's why the Democrats are calling for Kamala Harris to be at the top of the ticket. That's why there's a document floating around in Washington, D.C. about who VP should be. She is going to be at the top of the ticket, and they have to make that decision within the next 2 weeks, because if not, they'll miss ballot deadlines for Kamala to be actually on the ballot in many different states, because as you know, Bob, the ballot is controlled by 50 different states with 50 different rules, and that's why they actually had to hold a Zoom nomination, or plan to hold a Zoom nomination, so Biden on the ballot in Ohio. Remember, let's let the Democrats pick up their own mess. But I think what's problematic here, Bob, is where's Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, who screamed for the 25th Amendment to be invoked, against President Trump. And today, there's only crickets, Bob.
Yeah, I don't believe that Zooming is legit. In my mind, they're only doing that to keep Biden as the candidate because it's not like, I mean, from my familiarity, and I'll admit that I haven't gone to look at Ohio's, but every state I'm aware of that I have looked into, they always take the major candidates, candidate, right? The major parties candidate. They would just get them out there. Let me ask you this, Ford. If you had Kamala, again, she could be rehabilitated in her image, might not work. But if she had Shapiro, the governor, the very popular governor of Pennsylvania, that might give her Pennsylvania. And essentially what the Democrats need, and again, I'm not working for them or against them, they need that, they need Michigan, they need Wisconsin. And then they win by 2 electoral votes.
You know, that's exactly right. There is a lot to do with the blue wall. But I'm going to say this right now. Donald Trump, as long as Joe Biden's at the top of the ticket, is expanding the map. And yes, you make a good point. But now we have to spend 4 months defining Kamala Harris when we just spent the last 4 years defining Biden. And let's be honest, you're right. Right now, she is more unpopular than Joe Biden. Her policy, though, is the exact same as his. She's not for cheap gas. She's not for a closed border. She wants to force everyone to drive an EV vehicle and wants millions of illegals running around the country. It's the same policies with a different face, and let's just stick with Joe Biden for right now.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about her is she's a liberal. And
Focus, man.
Biden ran as a moderate, right? So Biden got the nomination, you could say, thanks to Jim Clyburn in South Carolina. Once everybody got on board, he ran as a moderate and has governed as a liberal. And Kamala's never claimed to be anything other than a liberal, and that may hurt Democrats.
Well, I think that would hurt Democrats because this election is going to be about one thing, and that's the price of groceries, Bob. You know, they can spin Kamala any way you want, but she's the exact same policy as Joe Biden, who is absolutely right, is not a moderate, but in fact the most liberal president in American history. I'm just concerned about the fact that, okay, you got Kamala Harris. Maybe you pick up Josh Shapiro, to your point. Remember, the biggest problem the Democrats have right now is they have a young voter turnout problem. They want to see a new set of people up there that might actually help them unlock that problem that they've created themselves with their terrible policies, particularly as it relates to inflation.
I was thinking of that this morning, as a matter of fact, Ford. I was thinking the Democrats could then say, this is the next generation of leadership. We are not stuck with an 81-year-old or a 78-year-old. We have somebody younger, and this is part of the future. I agree with you. The Republicans better be careful what they wish for.
Yeah, and look, Democrats, you got to understand, they're not going to lie down and die. They are going to do everything possible. And tell you, Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Supreme Court put the boxes back in so the votes can go everywhere in Wisconsin, which is a big, big problem for Republicans when it comes to ballot harvesting and that very key blue wall that you were speaking of, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. Look, we have them on the ropes. Let's let them dig their own grave. Let's not throw a lifeline with the 25th Amendment and then have America get comfortable with Kamala Harris. Let's not let them back in the. You and I know this very well. You played baseball. I played football. The bottom line is when you've got your opponent on the ropes, you know what? Keep your foot on the gas and don't give them any leeway.
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking of a baseball analogy when we used to be hitting the heck out of a pitcher. You know, we'd yell out, "Stick a fork in him," because he's done. And I almost feel like that's the way Biden is right now. Somebody should stick a fork in him. He doesn't know he's done, but he is, and it's interesting to see this play out. I'm just opining now, but I think Ford, we both see how this is going.
That's exactly right. And you'll know when the final shoe drops is when Jim Clyburn of South Carolina turns on Joe Biden. What's going to be interesting tonight is that George Stephanopoulos. You know, the question is how much
that close. Yeah, they say they're going to do it in full, and we'll see. I got to go, Ford. I'm sorry. We'll talk to you all afternoon. But Ford O'Connell, always a pleasure. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Bob. You too.
And campaign event for President Biden set to begin any moment now. That's what we're keeping track of here. We're monitoring it live. We'll bring it to you as soon as it starts right here on National desk on N2, as well as the latest from the White House on President Biden's future in the Oval Office and his support, or lack thereof, on Capitol Hill. You're watching National.
Find Law is the place for all things legal. You can find an experienced lawyer in your area using the largest directory in the U.S. Create vital estate planning forms or start your business using our easy, accurate, and affordable DIY services. And get answers to your legal questions through access to thousands of free legal articles, laws, and the latest legal information. Find Law. Legal solutions start here. Get started today at findlaw.com.
Business is always in motion. You need a mobility partner that listens and adapts. With solutions customized for the short-term haul. Because business as usual isn't the usual anymore. Enterprise for lives in drive.
Progress comes in many flavors. You can fight for it with a paintbrush, a bicycle, a surfboard, a polar bear suit, or a giant ice cream cone. You can make progress by doing the things you love. Make a motherfucking change!
You guys are the best. The good guys.
It's what we do.
If we knew how a tornado really worked, we could design an advanced warning system.
These sensors.
You gotta get in front of the tornado, put it in the damage path, and get out again before it works you up too.
There's brighter days ahead. The Biden administration's Inflation Reduction Act. The Inflation Reduction Act invests billions of dollars into Black America, creates thousands of good-paying jobs that can support a family and pave pathways to greater opportunity. It lowers the cost of prescription drugs, health insurance, and energy bills, so families have a little more to spend on things that make the days special. Visit this site to learn more about how Joe Biden's Inflation Reduction Act is helping our community.
America is always on the move. And when you move with Pods, you can trust us to deliver with care. Because nearly 99% of our deliveries are claim-free. Book your move today at pods.com.
Slide to the left, slide to the right.
Seal it with a slide.
Well, the Biden campaign working to shake off the president's bad debate, in their words, hitting the campaign trail in the battleground state of Wisconsin this afternoon. That's what you're looking at on the right. That's tape on the left. The rally about to begin in Madison any time now. Mr. Biden maintaining the message that he's in the presidential race to defeat Donald Trump and will not be pushed out. Joining us now is Chief White House Correspondent James Rosen with the latest on President Biden. James.
Bob, good afternoon. Mr. Biden running a bit late in his schedule today. We were expecting this speech in Madison, Wisconsin to begin right about now at 2:15 p.m. Eastern Time. He boarded Air Force One about 2 hours ago at Joint Base Andrews, and as he ascended the steps, a reporter in the press pool shouted out a series of questions at Mr. Biden. The first was, is it time for you to drop out of the race? The president didn't answer and kept climbing the stairs of Air Force One. What is your message to Wisconsin today? The president kept climbing stairs without answering. The last question was, can you still beat former President Trump? The president, as he ascended the stairs of Air Force One, turned to the press pool and said only one word, yes. Then aboard Air Force One, White House Press Secretary Jean-Pierre briefed reporters. There were a number of notable moments here. One was that she reiterated that President Biden is staying in the race, isn't going anywhere, told supporters on the South grounds yesterday. She addressed this discrepancy between herself and the president over whether or not the president consulted a physician in the wake of the disastrous debate performance in Atlanta last week. Jean-Pierre had previously said no. The president told donors he had. Today, aboard Air Force One briefing, reporter Jean-Pierre said that the president had conducted, quote, what she called a short verbal check-in with his physician, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, a couple of days after the debate. And then finally, were those comments the president made in Raleigh, North Carolina, the day after the debate last week, where he said, I'm not a young man, I don't walk as well as I used to, I don't talk as well as I used to, I debate as I used to. A reporter asked Jean-Pierre aboard Air Force One today, does the president think as well as he used to? And Jean-Pierre answered in the affirmative. Now, as we saw, President Biden and the Vice President hosted a pair of events to mark Independence Day here at the White House yesterday, an afternoon barbecue and then a raucous nighttime event in conjunction with the fireworks display. These events kicked off what amounts to a short one-week runway that Mr. Biden pleaded for and received from his Democratic allies, in which for him to demonstrate anew to the American people that he remains fit for the office of the presidency, both cognitively and physically. But at the barbecue event, there are echoes of the unfocused, pandering performance that the president delivered aboard that debate stage in Atlanta last week.
You know, I was in that World War I cemetery in France, and one that one of our colleagues, the former president, didn't want to go and get there. I probably shouldn't have said it. Anyway, we got to just remember who the hell we are. We're the United States of America. Whoa.
Now, here was the impromptu moment at that barbecue where a supporter on the South grounds could be heard off camera urging the president to keep up the good fight, and the chief executive responded with a vow to stay right where he is.
We love you, and I really mean it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. Thank you. You got me, man. I'm not going anywhere.
One of the several voting blocs which polls have shown President Biden to be underperforming consistently throughout this cycle is the African-American community, a community that the Biden administration has courted almost continuously since day one, with countless policy initiatives aimed at that. So the president on Wednesday recorded 2 radio interviews with black journalists. Yet even here, Mr. Biden misfired, as when he sought to invoke the hallowed name of Barack Obama and wound up misidentifying himself as the black one to serve, a black president.
I'm proud to be, as I said, the first vice president, first black woman, served with a black president. Proud of the first black woman in the Supreme Court. There's just so much that we do, because together there's nothing. Look, this is the United States of America.
After this campaign event in Madison, Wisconsin, set to begin just months from now, President Biden will conduct a sit-down one-on-one interview, his first since last week's 8 debacle, with ABC News' George Stephanopoulos, the same interlocutor Mr. Biden chose nearly 3 years ago for his first interview after the Afghanistan debacle. The president has granted far fewer interviews than of his recent predecessors, dating back to Ronald Reagan. One of those recent was a sit-down interview he granted to CNN's Aaron Burnett in May, in which the president appeared shaky, at different points lost his train of thought. All eyes on ABC News Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time tonight. Bob.
There'll be a lot of eyes looking at that. Jameson, thank you very much. And let's welcome former Georgia Congressman Jack Kingston. Congressman, give me what you're looking at right now. What are your thoughts?
You know, Bob, it reminds me of when I was in grade school and I misbehaved, and the teacher would give me one more last chance and say, any more slip-ups and you're out of here. And that's the position the president is in. From here on out, all of his public appearances have to be flawless, because if they're not, for example, what we saw last night, people are going to say he is absolutely too old. Keep in mind, CBS polling shows 70% of Americans think that he is too old and not up to the job. So any little slip is going to be 10 times as worse as several months ago. And back when they were telling us he was the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah, you know, I make the analogy that this is like having some great practice on the football field, but the Super Bowl was last Thursday, and you lost. So it doesn't matter how many great routes you're running how many passes you're doing, you lost. And it's not like that was a one-off or it just came out of the clear blue sky. The reason it mattered so much is it had been years in the making, really. And it also, I don't know, Congressman, if you know why they had that debate so early anyway, because I've always thought it was pressure from the Democratic Party just in case what happened.
That's how I feel too. I think that the Biden people wanted to get it out of the way so that there would be time to recover. Plus, they wanted to paint the picture that President Trump is a liar, and they could not do that because, number one, the president wasn't lying. Number two, Biden, on the few steps that you could understand, did lie. As you'll remember, he said he was endorsed by the Border Patrol. He said there were trillionaires in the United States of America. He said that he had created hundreds of millions of new jobs, far greater than the job market itself. And then, of course, he said there were no service members killed under his watch. So if they were trying to figure out who the liar on the stage was, it was certainly Joe Biden. But that was on those rare times when you could understand what he was actually saying.
All right, Congressman Kingston, thanks so much for joining us, sir.
Okay, Bob, take care.
You can continue driving. State versus state in a fight for voter rights. Missouri suing New York over Donald Trump's gag order. The Show Me states claim is that the prosecution of the former president is politically motivated and that Missouri voters are being held hostage in the upcoming election. A lot from the Supreme Court with details, and of course we will follow when Mr. Biden starts speaking in Madison. Stay with us.
There's brighter days thanks to the Biden administration's Inflation Reduction Act. The Inflation Reduction Act lowers the cost of prescription drugs, health insurance, and energy bills, so families have a little more to spend on things that make the day special.
America is always on the move, and when you move with POTS, you can trust us to deliver with care. Because nearly 99% of our deliveries are claim-free. Book your May at pods.com.
Progress comes in many flavors. You can fight for it with a paintbrush, a bicycle, a surfboard, a polar bear suit, or a giant ice cream cone. You can make progress doing the things you love.
Commonwealth Charter Academy breaks the mold for cyber education with our unique teacher-designed curriculum, custom digital learning platform, and expansive career readiness programs. Students can step into their future with confidence. Choose unique. Choose CCA.
There's brighter days ahead thanks to the Biden administration's Inflation Reduction Act. The Inflation Reduction Act lowers the cost of prescription drugs, health insurance, and energy bills, so families have a little more to spend on things that make the days special.
Whether you're moving across town or across the country, PODS gives you the flexibility to pack at your pace. We put you in control so you can move on your schedule. Book your move today at pods.com.
Progress comes in many flavors. You can fight for it with a paintbrush, a bicycle, a surfboard, a polar bear suit, or a giant ice cream cone. You can make progress by doing the things you love.
For over 20 years, Commonwealth Charter Academy has provided more than just an online learning program. Through our teacher-designed curriculum and helpful staff and family mentors, we have the know-how and understanding of how schools should work. Choose know-how. Choose CCA.
There's brighter days ahead thanks to the Biden administration's Inflation Reduction Act. The Inflation Reduction Act lowers the cost of prescription drugs, health insurance, and energy bills, so families have a little more to spend on things that make the days special.
Grandpa gave me the car, said I shocked you. Not sure what to do with this thing, but I'm gonna make him proud. Did it all myself. Wouldn't change a thing. Actually, I think it might be time for a change.
I think Grandpa would be proud. I have no doubt about it.
At AAA, our agents build insurance solutions that go with you today, tomorrow, and for a lifetime.
brighter days to the Biden administration's Inflation Reduction Act. The Inflation Reduction Act lowers the cost of prescription drugs, health insurance, and energy bills, so families have a little more to spend on things that make it special.
Business is always in motion. You need a mobility partner that listens and adapts. With solutions customized for the short term and the long haul. Because business as usual isn't the usual anymore. Drive for lives in Drive.
Mr. President, no, I'm serious. This is true. It's an explanation how America won the Revolutionary War. I'm not making this up. He said in his 4th of July speech 5 years ago, he said, George Washington's army won the revolution by taking control of the airports from the British. We talk about me misspeaking. Airports and the British in 1776. It's true, he's stable genes, this man. My friends, I'm in Wisconsin for one reason. Because we're going to win Wisconsin. We're going to win it. And let me tell you how we're going to do it. You know the reason. We're going to do it because of you all in this room to start with. Well, we're going to stand up for women in America. We're going to restore Roe v. Wade, law of the land. We're going to stand up for the right to vote again. We're going to fight for Medicare and Social Security insurance, elder care, paid leave. Oh, which grow the economies. We're going to keep lowering the cost of prescription drugs and expand health care for everyone. Watch out. Look, we're going to protect our children from getting weapons of war off our streets. That's what we're going to do. The idea that more children die from gunshot wounds in America is so wrong. It's sick. It really is sick. We're going to keep confronting climate change. The most important, we're going to save our democracy. Now you probably heard, we had a little debate last week. Can't say it's my best performance. But ever since, there's been a lot of speculation. What's Joe going to do? Is he going to stay in the race? Is he going to drop out? What's he going to do? Well, here's my answer. I am running and going to win again. Sitting President of the United States of America in no small part because of you. Not a joke in 2020. You came through for me. I'm the nominee of the Democratic Party. I'm the nominee of this party because millions of Democrats like you just voted for me in primaries all across America. You voted for me to be your nominee. No one else. You, the votes. The voters did that. And despite that some folks don't seem to care who you voted for, but they're trying to push me out of the race. Well, let me say this as clearly as I can. I'm staying in a race. I'll beat Donald Trump. I will beat him again in 20. And by the way, we're going to do it again in 2024. I learned long ago, when you get knocked down, you get back up. I'm not letting one minor debate wipe out 3.5 years of work. As the governor said, I've led this nation from the depths of the pandemic to the strongest economy in the world, and that's literally true. And I and you are not finished yet. And you probably also noticed a lot of discussion about my age. I know I look 40. I keep seeing all those stories about I'm being too old. Let me say something. I was too old. I wasn't too old to create over 15 million new jobs. To make sure 21 million Americans are insured under the Affordable Care Act. To be Big Pharma, the first time they ever do that, lowered it to $35 per visit. Well, they're too old to relieve student debt for nearly 5 million Americans and grow the economy. Too old to put the first black woman on the Supreme Court of the United States of America. To sign the Respect for Marriage Act. Well, they're too old to sign the most significant gun safety law in 30 years. To pass the biggest climate bill in the history of the world, not here, the history of the world. But then, my critics say, sure, but you did all that. But that was in the past. What about now? Well, how about the 200,000 jobs we announced yesterday? So let me ask you, what do you think? You think I'm too old to restore Roe v. Wade, the law of the land? You think I'm too old to ban assault weapons, to protect Social Security, Medicare, to get child care, elder care for working families in need of the nation? To make billionaires finally start to pay something beyond 8.2% of the tax rate? Let me ask you, you think I'm too old to beat Donald Trump? I can hardly wait. Anyway, folks, let's focus on what really matters. We're running against the biggest liar and the biggest threat. No, really, the biggest liar, biggest threat to our democracy in history. That's not hyperbole. Over 150 presidential historians voted him the worst president in American history. No, the worst. As I've said before, he has the morals of an alley cat. He lies about the economy he created. He's one of only 2 American presidents who left office with fewer jobs than when he came into office. You know who the other one was? Herbert Hoover. Fact. That's why I call him Donald Herbert Hoover Trump. He lies about the pandemic he totally botched. The truth is, over 1 million people went on to die. He told us what? To inject bleach in our arm. It wasn't serious. He lied about how great he was for veterans in his administration. The truth, he called veterans who gave their lives serving America, and I was just in Normandy and on the beaches of Normandy and all through that area. And he said, I have trouble saying this because my son died as a consequence of Iraq. Who gave their lives, he called them, quote, suckers and losers. By the way, I'll be damn glad I wasn't with him because I'll be able to talk about my son that way. That's right. But how do we know he said this, that I'm not making this up? A 4-star Marine general, his own former chief of staff was with him. He told us that's what he said. He's not only former Trump official warning us about how bad Trump is, including the former secretaries of defense and even his own vice president. They refused to endorse him. Says a lot about who Trump is and says a lot about what he isn't. By the way, I couldn't ponder. I guess I shouldn't say it. By the way, I couldn't be prouder to have your support and the support of our great Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris. Trump is a convicted felon, found guilty, 34 felonies, trying to hide hush money payments to a porn star. Another jury found Trump sexually assaulted a woman in a public place, and he's been fined $90 million for defaming. $90 million. He's only been bankrupt about 20 times, but I don't know. This so-called great businessman owes over $400 million in fines after being convicted in New York State of business fraud. Already convicted. Fined $400 million. Donald Trump isn't just a convicted criminal. He's a one-man crime wave. But Trump's biggest lie of all is he had nothing to do with the insurrection of January 6th. We all saw with our own eyes. We saw he sent thousands to attack the Capitol. We saw police being attacked, Capitol being ransacked, the mob hunting for Nancy Pelosi, gallows set up to hang Mike Pence. Let me ask you something. After what Trump did on January 6th, why would anyone ever let him be near the Oval Office again? Folks, the issue of this election is, what kind of America do we want to be? What kind of America do we want to be? Do we want to be a country of anger, revenge, and retribution? Or a country of hope and optimism and possibilities as well as again? I want a country where women have a right to make their own health care decisions. Trump wants an America where abortion is banned and women are punished. I want an America where health care is a right, not a privilege. Trump wants to throw tens of millions of people who couldn't get insurance any other way than Obamacare off of Obamacare. I want America where the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Trump wants to give the very additional, last time out when he was president, he gave me a $2 trillion tax cut, making the largest deficit any president has in one term. Now he's announced he wants another $5 trillion tax cut after already leaving the largest deficit. It's hard to make this up. I want to protect Social Security Medicare. He wants to cut Social Security and Medicare so he can cut taxes for the very wealthy. I want to ban assault weapons, require universal background checks. You all heard him promise the NRA. He promised the National Rifle Association, I will do nothing about guns. That's what he said. I will do nothing about guns. And he means it. I want January 6th insurrectionists to serve their full prison terms. Trump wants to pardon them. Folks, you can't be pro-insurrectionist and pro-American at the same time. This is so damn serious. You can't love your country only when you win. Look, it's been a long time. Let me close with this. Ultimately, American presidency is about character. The character of the president who holds the job. Because with the immunities he's talking, the Supreme Court just talked about, it gets down to that. It gets down to that. It's about honesty. It's about the president's decency, integrity. Do they respect people? Or do they incite violence and hate? Can they honor their oath of the Constitution and uphold their oath of office? Well, I don't think it's an exaggeration to suggest Trump has failed on every one of these character tests. Every one. And what's worse, the Supreme Court has just ruled that there are virtually no limits on the power of the presidency. I know it sounds bizarre, but that's what they ruled. A frightening decision. According to the extreme majority of the Supreme Court, the president is now above the law. Celebrated the 4th of July, saying we will not be ruled by a king. And this Supreme Court proved this new law. It's in a dangerous precedent, especially if Donald Trump is returned president. Just think about it. The second term, this next term, whoever is the president is going to appoint at least 2 new appointees. Second term, where there are no limits. Supreme Court Justice Sotomayor warned us about that in her dissent in that case. This is it. She noted that based on our decision, Trump can take out his opponents and physically take them out, take bribes, lead a coup, and be immune to ever being held accountable for it if he did it while he was president, according to the Supreme Court. I mean, where the hell are we? So he really could become a dictator that he promised to be on day one. For over 2 centuries, we've had a free democratic nation. And I'll be damned if the year 2024, just 2 years before our 250th anniversary of it as a nation, I'll let Donald Trump take this away. hyperbole. This race is about our freedom. It's about our democracy. It's about the very soul of America. Are we prepared to fight for that? I know I am, and I will. And folks, I have never been more optimistic about America, because the American people are decent, good, honorable. And just remember who in God's name you are. We're the United States of America. I need to think about it. Think about it in little terms. And there's nothing beyond our capacity when we stand together. So let's stand together, win this election, and exile Donald Trump politically. God bless you all. May God protect our troops. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
There's brighter days ahead, thanks to the Biden administration's Inflation Reduction Act. The Inflation Reduction Act lowers the cost of prescription drugs, health insurance, and energy bills, so families have a little more to spend on things that make the day special.
America, we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. By honoring sacred vocation of nursing, you impact your family, your friends, and your community. At Grand Canyon University, our online RN to BSN, MSN, or DNP degree programs allow you to balance online coursework with local in-person clinical, practicum, or immersion hours. Find your purpose at GCU. Private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu.
There's brighter days ahead, thanks to the Biden administration's Inflation Reduction Act. The Inflation Reduction Act lowers the cost of prescription drugs, health insurance, and energy bills, so families have a little more to spend on things that make the day special.
If you're 50 or over, you can be taking advantage of everything AARP has to offer right now. Join AARP for $12 for 1 year, and your second membership free. Get instant access to discounts on everyday purchases, eye care and prescriptions, and tools and tips to help manage your money and maximize your health. Plus, AARP fights to protect your Social Security, Medicare, and more. Join and get an insulated truck organizer free, plus AARP the magazine. Call or go to joinaarp.org now.
There's brighter days ahead, thanks to the Biden administration's Inflation Reduction Act. The Inflation Reduction Act lowers the cost of prescription drugs, health insurance, and energy bills, so families have a little more to spend on things that make the day special. There's brighter days ahead, thanks to the Biden administration's Inflation Reduction Act. The Inflation Reduction Act lowers the cost of prescription drugs, health insurance, and energy bills, so families have a little more to spend on things that make the day special.
Grandpa gave me a car, said I should talk to you. Not sure what to do with this thing, but I'm gonna make him out. Did it on myself. Wouldn't change a thing. Actually, I think it might be time for a change.
I think Grandpa would be proud. I have no doubt about it.
At AAA, our agents build insurance solutions that grow with you today, tomorrow, and for a lifetime.
There's bright ahead, thanks to the Biden administration's Inflation Reduction Act. The Inflation Reduction Act lowers the cost of prescription drugs, health insurance, and energy bills, so families have more to spend on things that make the day special. There's brighter days ahead, thanks to the Biden administration's Inflation Reduction Act. The Inflation Reduction Act lowers the cost of prescription drugs, health insurance, and energy bills, so families have a little more to spend on things that make the day special.
All right, Tom, let's get into it again. Greta's the legal expert. You're the legal expert. I am not, so I want you to explain for me. Many people may not realize that the First Amendment not only protects what people say, but also what they hear, or in this case, as the statute said, because of Judge Rashawn's order, Missourians were not allowed to hear from the former president. Your thoughts?
You know, this is an interesting time because the lawsuit against Trump, or the criminal prosecution, was, of course, unprecedented, and most of us agree that was beyond the law, meaning they managed to do this by subverting the law, not using the law. So what does that mean for those that also could not hear it? And we've never had a lawsuit brought by a state that, on behalf of its citizens, to say that we couldn't hear a president. And so this is going to be very interesting. I expect that you will have a better hearing for this in Missouri than maybe you would have in New York City. But the question is, will a federal court in that district find, as you were describing, that they have a right to hear this? Will they find that the proceedings in New York stop them from hearing it, and therefore they have standing? They were actually harming the citizens of Missouri. The problem in the case is that New York has its own right to prosecute crime, and this has yet to be overturned. So this should be an interesting battle, but I think the value of the lawsuit in the short run for President Trump is that it demonstrates to the American people what's at the heart of this matter, which is a political suit in New York to begin with, a political proceeding, and now they're trying to undo the politics of it.
Exactly. They're simply revealing the fact that lawfare is happening before our very eyes, and it is affecting voters leading into the election. Tom, I want to get to this. All right, the New York criminal trial sentencing is delayed following the Supreme Court's immunity ruling. The election interference case also slowed down after that ruling. Plus, Special Counsel Jack Smith's appointment itself being questioned as constitutional. We know the election fraud case in Georgia on indefinite hold. The documents case, no trial date, hearings are ongoing. So all of these cases against the former president, are they effectively over?
Well, I think they're over before the election. And what I mean by that is you will not have a resolution prior to the election, with the exception of perhaps Judge Merchan putting in a sentence, but then saying that during the appeal, the sentence does not need to be carried out. I expect him to say something like, Trump needs to serve 30 days in jail, but pending appeal, I won't make him actually go to jail. But the others are basically done, because from a procedural matter, there isn't enough time left between now and election day to complete them, and the lawfare would have not worked in that regard. In fact, they're in such disarray, it looked like they were the ones that were wrong, not Trump.
Yeah, interesting. We know that Smith has reportedly said that even after the election, he still plans to continue with this case. So again, we'll see how it all plays out. But as you put it out, the lawfare play will be long gone. All right, Tom Dobakar, please thank your lovely fiancée, Nicole, for sharing you with us on 4th of July. Appreciate it.
All right. Happy Independence Day to everyone.
You too.
There's brighter days ahead, thanks to the Biden administration's Inflation Reduction Act. The Inflation Reduction Act invests billions of dollars into Black America, creates thousands of good-paying jobs that can support a family and pave pathways to greater opportunity. It lowers the cost of prescription drugs, health insurance, and energy bills, so families have a little more to spend on things that make the day special. Visit this site to learn more about how Joe Biden's Inflation Reduction Act is helping our community.
At Liberty, we understand you've waited long enough to move forward. So pay lowest tuition rates in the nation and get credit for what you've already done, so you can get ahead of the pack and stay unstoppable.
For more than 50 years, Mega Foods combine real fruits and vegetables with clinically studied nutrients to support your unique journey. That's what it means to be plant-powered for the people. Find your support at megafood.com.
Fact: Black Americans are exposed to 50% more pollution than they produce. Over 1 million Black Americans live within half a mile of a polluter. 2 times as many Black children suffer from asthma. At risk are air, water, health. Another fact: President Biden's climate justice initiative did something about it, cleaning up pollution in our community, taking on corporate polluters while lowering energy bills. These facts really matter because they make a difference in our lives.
Welcome to Liberty University's online programs, where living out your calling with integrity is what you train to do. And getting ready for the future doesn't mean missing out on the now. Liberty University, training champions for Christ.
Imagine a home protects itself, inside and out. Now, stop imagining. Get Vivint, a safer, smarter home.
There's brighter days ahead, thanks to the Biden administration's Inflation Reduction Act. The Inflation Reduction Act invests billions of dollars into America, creates thousands of good-paying jobs that can support a family and pave pathways to greater opportunity. It lowers the cost of prescription drugs, health insurance, and energy bills, so families have a little more to spend on things that make the days special. Visit this site to learn more about how Joe Biden's Inflation Reduction Act is helping our community.
A college degree is more than a diploma. It's taking control of your future and finding that next step. At Liberty, you'll find more ways than one to get there. Over 600 online programs, one you, infinite possibilities.
In the Goodlands, you can taste every ingredient with our Smart Trace technology. Salmon from Nebraska, chicken from Arkansas, and apples from Oregon. Goodlands, welcome to the good life.
Fact: Black Americans are exposed to 56% more pollution than they produce. For 1 million Black Americans live within half a mile of a polluter. 2 times as many Black children suffer from asthma. At risk are air, water, health. Another fact: President Biden's climate justice initiative did about it, cleaning up pollution in our community, taking on corporate polluters, lowering energy bills. These facts really matter because they make a difference in our lives.
A college degree is more than a diploma. It's taking control of your future and finding that next step. At Liberty, you'll find more ways than one to get there. Over 600 online programs, one you, infinite possibilities.
Check us out. Check out ordering groceries with your hands full in an add to cart pose and on your study break. Check out same places in.
We are Americans.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bianca De La Garza, and thank you so much for joining us this hour. This is a special edition, the best of Newswire for you today. We begin with Hunter Biden, the first son convicted on federal gun charges. Of course, it came after former President Trump was convicted on criminal charges in a paperwork case in New York. I spoke to attorney and state chair of the Delaware Republican Party, Julian Murray, and Trump legal surrogate and attorney David Gelman about these two cases. Here's our conversation. David Gelman, welcome into you both. I want to start, if we may, with what's happening as we are talking right now. This is the Fulcher vote. I believe we saw the live picture there. They're attempting to hold Attorney General Merrick Garland in contempt of Congress for to turn over audio of President Joe Biden's interview with Special Counsel Robert Hur. I just find it just perplexing. They want to assert proof, and there is no legal reason, and then they tried to say it's deep fake. But ultimately, this is something that Americans need to hear because he's running for re-election, and we need to know about cognitive issues. Julianne, it just seems like the transparency here is borderline dereliction here as people are going to the polls this November, and Biden says he's doing just fine.
And you're being kind by calling it borderline dereliction.
Yes,
I am. And I can tell you, as an attorney who has read transcripts, the antiseptic transcript is entirely different than hearing the witness say it. So I've been in the courtroom, heard the witness, and then read the transcript, and it appears different. So the audio of that interview is incredibly important contextually for lots of reasons, particularly when there's a statement about, I mean, at least hinting, if not directly saying that he is a nice elderly man. What was the exact quote? That
Yes.
A kindly fellow or whatever it was. But it's cognitive issues. The Attorney General's covering for him.
Let's play James Comer a little bit more of why they want these, and also why don't they release them if there's nothing to hide.
What is the Biden administration trying to hide? Attorney General Merrick Garland's refusal to produce evidence establishes a clear pattern of obstruction by the DOJ to cover up President Biden's wrongdoing.
Let's follow this line of thinking to what Julianne set up, David. So he is not well enough to face charges, but he's over in the country, have the nuclear codes. Not a problem here. I see really hypocrisy.
I mean, look, Joe Biden hides his own Easter eggs. That's pretty much what it comes down to in this one. It's total hypocrisy. They already released a transcript, and you see how bad the transcript is. I can understand why Joe Biden doesn't want to have this audio released, and the Democrats don't want to have it released. I mean, if I was them, I'd probably say no as well. But they have no basis for it. There's no legal argument to do it. And James Comer is exactly right. Now that there is a subpoena, which is a legal document forcing somebody to turn over the evidence, and and Merrick Garland is saying, no, I'm not going to do that. That's saying, well, you pretty much are telling everybody else the same thing. Well, we don't have to comply with subpoenas now. You are the head of the DOJ, the head of the biggest law enforcement in the United States of America, and you are flipping your nose and the finger to Congress. It is a total outrage. Obviously, look, it's going to be dead on arrival at the Senate, but that's not the point. The point is, nobody is above the law. Right, Merrick Garland? Well, then start acting.
Hunter Biden apparently was convicted, but now there's talk from the White House, Karine Jean-Pierre, saying on Air Force One when asked about committing a sentence, saying I can't really give you anything more on that. I'm sort of paraphrasing, but the president said he won't pardon his son. This is kind of the same thing. It's just semantics, isn't it, Julianne?
100%. And as soon as he said, when he was asked, have you ruled out pardoning your son? Yes. Anybody who knows anything about the law said, but he didn't say that about commuting the sentence. I mean, it is absolutely in play. And the word salad that Jean-Pierre, spit out today, I mean, if she's moving her lips, she's lying about something or covering for something. Hunter Biden, as long as his father is president and has the power to either commute or pardon him, he is not going to jail.
And let's say what happens with this tax trial, because there's real exposure there now that the laptop is real, that's been entered into evidence, and all this money that he didn't pay taxes on for what? And it leads back to AKA the big guy. And so maybe just take a plea deal since he knows he could have rescue him on the other side and avoid a trial. David, what's your gut telling you on this?
Yes, that's exactly what's going to happen. In fact, if you don't, that's probably going to be a dereliction of his duty not to pretty much force Hunter Biden to take one. Remember, he's already being referred to the DOJ as we speak for contempt of Congress. So that's already going to be on his rap sheet as it is. Then you have the guilty verdict from Delaware. Number two, if you go to trial in California and lose, your sentencing guidelines in the federal system have just exponentially increased. Now, obviously, Daddy Biden, he's going to commute him or pardon him, whatever it is. But Biden doesn't want to have his dirty laundry any more out there than it already is. And remember, it's not only Hunter Biden and not only Joe Biden, but James Biden and the sister as well. The whole Biden conglomerate all in one.
And I have 10 seconds, Julianne, but this is why they are worried about Donald Trump if he was to get into office, because if there's this stonewalling and the not complying with congressional subpoenas when there is a change at the White House, all of this could very likely well be exposed. Final thoughts to you.
Exactly. I mean, they do not want the trial to happen in September. There's too much exposure there. There's going to be an offer of some sort. But the contempt of Congress, I mean, Merrick Garland can flip the finger to everybody because he knows it's dead on arrival, and he is absolutely protecting the White House at this point.
Julianne, David, got to leave it there. Thank you so much for your thoughtful and astute comments today. I appreciate you both for joining me here on Newswire. Conflicts across the globe erupting since Trump left office. Recently, I spoke about all the rising tensions with the U.S. National Security Vice President of the Davis Institute at the Heritage Foundation and former Deputy National Security Advisor in the Trump administration, Victoria Coates. She was also joined by former CIA analyst and former member of the National Security Council in the Trump administration, now at America First Policy Institute, Fred Fleitz. Here's our conversation. Fred, I'll start with you. You know, the disbanding of the war cabinet, obviously we know there's a lot of politics going on, so there's a political issue here. Netanyahu wants to eradicate Hamas. There is also more tensions now with Hezbollah in the north. Tell us about your reaction to war cabinet and the move here by Netanyahu to scale it back a little as well, and he's calling it a kitchen cabinet.
Well, the war cabinet was a great initiative when Israeli politicians from each side of the aisle got together and united after the October 7th terrorist attacks. But here we are more than 6 months later, and there's some impatience by some Israelis to get a settlement, but also there's politics. You know, there's a robust political debate in Israel. I think Benny Gantz was getting tired of participating in this alliance. He's been talking to the Biden administration about getting Netanyahu out of there. He called for early elections. It would be nice to see all Israeli leaders unite in the fight against Hamas. I think Gantz and some others are pushing ceasefire before Hamas is defeated, which I think is unfortunate. There's some frustration that there's no plan to govern Gaza after Hamas is defeated, but I don't think that justifies breaking up the war cabinet. But Benny Gantz left, and I think Netanyahu will continue to consult with the opposition. Simply, there will be another structure.
And to your point there, you know, Victoria, pick up on that. You know, while they have the unification, they should be unified. They want to go after Hamas. They want to eradicate it because also Iran's watching this closely too. I mean, it's an uptick in, you know, escalation with Hezbollah to the north. Also, the Houthis have been very active in the past few days as well.
Indeed. And that's what makes this, you know, deep concerning, is that we've all been watching to see, you know, is Hezbollah going to take a decisive action at this point that might trigger a second front drill in the north, and then the Houthi also, for the first time, using a sea drone against a commercial vessel in the Red Sea. You know, this is an additional distraction for Israel, and I think, you know, those reporting from Tel Aviv was very strong that the message out of the Netanyahu government now needs to be, you know, we have tried once again, we have delivered the Biden administration's so-called ceasefire plan to Hamas, and they have rejected it again. So the people who can achieve a ceasefire in Gaza at this point it's Hamas, and so that decision is with them. And until they decide to lay down their arms and sue for terms, I think Israel has to fight and go ahead.
And let's pivot for a moment. Kamala Harris, who's set to speak any minute now about sexual abuse at the White House, was over in Switzerland taking President Biden's place there because he left the G7 to come back to make with Hollywood elites. But there, while at the Ukrainian Peace Summit, she told Zelensky just lasting peace, that they deserve that, and announcing $1.5 billion in aid. Russia was not at this talks at all. In fact, Vladimir Putin will be meeting with North Korea Kim Jong-un tomorrow for his own talks. Fred, it is clear this axis of evil that we see strengthening as well under Joe Biden's administration.
Well, this wasn't a serious peace conference because Russia wasn't invited. As much as we may be angry at Russia for this invasion, if the Russians aren't at the table, there's not going to be serious negotiations. Having said that, this conference represented everything Biden wanted in a peace conference, yet he left Europe, even though he was in the next country over, in Italy, because he wanted to hang out with Hollywood movie stars, and then he sent Kamala Harris. I think for two reasons. This sends a pretty negative message on how seriously he takes these talks. It makes him look more incompetent. And look, sending Kamala Harris to a foreign policy convention is something the world sees, I think, as a pretty significant snub, and Biden's lack of interest in issues like this. But we have to have serious talks. We have to have a way to end this conflict. This has become a long-term war of attrition that Ukraine will eventually lose. We may not get that it until and if Donald Trump is elected president.
Just about 10 seconds, Victoria. Final thoughts to you before we wrap it up here.
No, agreed. And I'd just point out the $1.5 billion that Kamala Harris renounced is all for civil society initiatives, which the American taxpayer should not be subsidizing. That should be coming out of Brussels. And agree with Fred that it's beyond time to get this wrapped up.
Yeah, we will see what happens. We've got to leave it there. Victoria Coates, Fred Flight's a pleasure. Thank you both for your expert analysis. And we're just getting started. Still ahead on the Best of Newswire. There was once a time when only Biden was leading her husband around. Now it's folks like Giorgia Meloni at the G7 and former President Barack Obama on an LA stage. The president's fitness to lead our nation, they say, is not likely to improve. We have more on the race and the road to 2024 when we come back.
There's brighter days ahead, thanks to the Biden administration's Inflation Reduction Act. The Inflation Reduction Act invests billions of dollars into Black America, creates thousands of good-paying jobs that can support a family and pave pathways to greater opportunity. It lowers the cost of prescription drugs, health insurance, and energy bills, so families have a little more to spend on things that make the days special. Visit this site to learn more about how Joe Biden's Inflation Reduction Act is helping our community.
FanDuel Casino has your chance at the #1 feeling, winning. Winning ranks higher than any other feeling, higher than number 30. Saying, I told you so.
Told you so.
Higher than number 89. The feeling of catching your car keys with one hand. And number 70. Thinking it's Friday when it's really Saturday. New players get 200 chances at winning with their first deposit on FanDuel Casino.
Fact. Black Americans are exposed to 56% more pollution than they produce. Over 1 million Black Americans live within half a mile of a polluter. 2 times as many Black children suffer from asthma. At risk are air, water, health. Another fact, President Biden's climate justice initiative did something about it, cleaning up pollution in our community, taking on corporate polluters while lowering energy bills. These facts really matter because they make a difference in our lives.
The Salvation Army Thrift Store. We're not for profit. We're for great first impressions. Every time you shop, you help the people in your community.
While you're busy caring for everyone else, take care of yourself with 22 nutrients plus real food to support immunity, energy, and bone health. My Food Multis are plant-powered for the people.
Challenges, they're nothing new. At Liberty, we know they make you stronger, force you to learn, adapt, to overcome. When your next challenge comes, meet it with a degree that propels you forward. We've helped champions like you succeed for 35 years and counting. And now over 100,000 students are getting stronger every day. At Liberty University, champions. Let's overcome together.
I always wanted to have a hobby. I tried lots of things. They just didn't work out. Then I found the Woobles, a learn to crochet kit made for complete beginners. I made Pierre the Penguin in a day. It's never late to learn a new hobby. Meet your next hobby, the Woobles.
Welcome back. I'm Bianca Della Garza, and this is a special edition. We're bringing you the best of Newswire today. Well, we know just days ago, President Donald Trump had a very big week out on the campaign trail speaking to real Americans. But President Biden was out speaking, not really in a good way, though. America becoming the butt of jokes across the globe after these 7 antics. I spoke to political analyst Mark Halpern about the tale of 2 campaigns. This thing on, it doesn't look like Biden's really lost, but I think Obama was subliminal doing something. What do you read into this? I mean, he puts his arm on his back almost like he's old or something. I mean, which we know, but why would he do that, do you think?
Well, I'd love to talk to Barack Obama about it. He considers the frame-by-frame analysis this, treating it akin to the Zapruder film as maybe a bit excessive. Look, there's ways to read this as he's helping the guy off the stage. Joe Biden looks a little lost, and Barack Obama leads it. I don't read it that way necessarily. I'm familiar with their interactions. I've seen similar things before. I think sometimes you'll see Obama gets a little impatient and leaves an event, and it looks weird to see one guy leaving, the other guy saying it's possible. He just felt they needed to have like the buddy imagery going at. Others have pushed back against me and said, well, if it's a buddy thing, why isn't Biden reciprocating? There's no doubt that Joe Biden is blind. There's no doubt that Joe Biden has some pretty fraught moments in public. This might have been one. I just don't sure that it is. But I do know that we're under the realities of politics. If there's a piece of video that reinforces a pre-existing conception that voters have, it's going to reinforce that pre-existing conception. And that's what's happening here, whether the negative interpretation is true or not.
Well said, Mark. I agree. So let's talk about, though, they're trying to now say Trump has some issues in this meeting. I mean, you just heard, the big media saying, well, I want to say he has mental, but, he was sort of, faltering. That's sort of like the line where they're trying to say he said Milwaukee was horrible, and he cleared that up with Mike Carter and said, no, I chose that. What do you make of this sort of new round of ways to try and now come back and say Trump has mental issues here? He's got cognitive delays.
Well, sometimes, I forget names too. I hope I'm not attacked on cable news for forgetting somebody's name. Look, the reality is the Democrats have had decades of being favored by the press. When they feel they don't have their normal home court advantage, when the refs allow the Washington Generals funks, they freak out a little bit. And they're freaking out right now because they think Donald Trump is being covered too softly. And so when he does something like he said about Milwaukee, of course Donald Trump doesn't dislike Milwaukee, but of course he sees problems with Milwaukee. I love Milwaukee. It's one of my favorite cities. But I can say there's some neighborhoods I don't want to go into. I can say taxes are too high. But they're jumping on that stuff because they're doing their best to work the rest to try to create controversy wherever they can, as the Trump folks do, to try to get the refs back on their side because they need that. They tend to win elections when they're on their side.
Great points. I know you know Milwaukee very well. So during the RNC, you'll be front and center there, I know, hopefully, to give us some insight on Milwaukee. I do want to play a little bit from Byron Donalds. As you know, he was there talking on Detroit. He's on the short list for the VP list. He's always said it's about electing Donald Trump, but he would love it, if he was to be chosen. Let's play this clip from Detroit Turning Point.
Byron Donalds is an incredible guy. Incredible guy. I noticed he happens to be on the list of potential vice presidents. Would anybody like to see him as the vice president? I noticed your name is very high on the list. That's good. You should be on the list too. Would you like to be VP? No? I think would. Tell you one thing, he'd be a good one too.
I've been up before, and he said yes then. But Mark, Turning Point straw poll says Jay Vance, senator out of Ohio, favored as VP. I mean, obviously, there's, palace intrigue here, and, I think it's Ben Carson. It's just me. I don't know why. It's just my thought. Any thoughts, too?
Well, first of all, Donald Trump loves being a television host, and right now he's the host of the long-running show, Who's Gonna Win the Beef Sticks?
Yeah.
And he loves it, right? He loves knowing, ahead of anybody else, who it's going to be, and he loves misdirection. And he loves asking. He knows that he's out in the Mar-a-Lago patio and he asks somebody, what do you think of Elise Stefanik? That it's going to show up in a paper and people are going to say, oh, Stefanik stock rising. I continue to not think it'll be someone like Ben Carson for this simple reason. Trump wants someone, his team wants someone who will do no harm, someone who will not mess up, someone who has a very good chance of beating Vice President Harris in the debate. Ben Carson brings some strengths, as everybody on the list does. I just don't think he's the safest pick, and I think they're going to go with someone who's more on the safe side of performing well in the debate, of performing well as a surrogate, of doing what Donald Trump wants more than anything else, looking like they're from central casting.
Do you want a net person?
I'm still going with my list of three. Vance and Rubio and Burgum, I think, are the top three, based on just a bunch of guessing.
Well, you usually have a pretty good pulse of where things are at. Mark Halpern,
We'll
got to
see.
leave it there. I'm getting
Okay,
the wrap.
thank you, Daga.
Thank you so much. We'll see you soon. We'll talk to you real soon. And don't go anywhere. The best of Newswire after the break.
Welcome to Liberty University, where giving God our best is what we train to do. Where protecting your time, our budget, and your education is our priority. Where degrees meet industry demands and help get you ahead of the competition. Where college comes to you, but you can come to college too. Your school, your values, your choice. Welcome to Liberty University, where we train champions for Christ.
Join us for a historical moment, the grand opening of Meritus Park, Hagerstown's new event stadium and home to the flying boxcars. Plan your getaway today at America's newest and most innovative ballpark. You're welcome, Hagerstown, Maryland.
Check us out. Check out ordering groceries with your hands full in a cart pose and on your study break. Check out same prices in store and online with order, pickup, deliver. ShopRite. Check out Happy.
I always want to have a hobby. I tried lots of things, but they just didn't work out. But then I found the Woobles, a learn to crochet kit made for complete beginners. I made Pierre the Penguin in a day. It's never too late to learn a new hobby. Meet your next hobby. The Woobles.
My mom signed up for AARP, but I didn't think I was ready yet until I started seeing benefits everywhere.
Join AARP now for access to exclusive benefits, plus find resources for retirement planning and understanding Social Security benefits.
So I signed up.
Join today for just $12 for the first year with automatic renewal, and that includes a second membership free. Plus, you'll receive AARP the magazine and this free gift. Call or go online today.
Whether moving across town or across the country, you can count on Pods to deliver when we say we will. Join over 6 million people who have trusted Pods with their move. Book your move today at pods.com.
If you're 50 or over, you can be taking advantage of everything AARP has to offer right now. Join AARP for $12 1 year, and your second membership is free. Get instant access to discounts on everyday purchases, eye care, and prescriptions, and tools and tips to manage your money and maximize your health. Plus, AARP fights to protect your Social Security, Medicare, and more. Join in an insulated trunk as they're free, plus AARP the magazine. Call or go to joinaarp.org now.
Check this out. Check out ordering groceries with your hands full in an add to cart pose and on your study break. Check out same prices in store and online with order, pickup, deliver. ShopRite. Check out Happy.
Imagine a home that picks itself inside and out. Now, stop imagining. Vivint. Get a safer, smarter home.
One way or the other, this war is coming to an end. He needs your help.
My name is Leonardo da Vinci. I've heard of me. I wish to be employed as a military engineer. Thanks.
And welcome back, everybody. I'm Bianca Della Garza. Thank you for joining us on this special edition, the best of Newswire. Russian President Vladimir Putin recently promising immediately to order ceasefire in Ukraine, but the requirements for Ukraine, many believed were just a non-starter. I spoke to a retired senior intelligence officer in the U.S. Army and national security advisor to Trump 2020 campaign, Lieutenant Colonel Tony Schaefer, and also retired Brigadier General, a U.S. Air Force and former U.S. Deputy Military Representative to NATO, Blaine Holt. Here's the conversation.
Hey, Bianca.
Friday, here we are, a week that is ending with more escalation in the Middle East. But first, let's begin with Putin's offer here. Is it an olive branch? Is it a non-starter? Some say he's doing this because he's losing. Others have quite a different view. Blaine, I'll start with you and then to Tony.
Yeah, all is not well in the Kremlin, so you should
think that Russia is a monolith, but they're clearly the superior force on the battlefield right now. I think what Putin is doing right now is creating a last chance moment before he unleashes the majority of his offensive against Ukraine. And he's going to want to look back to, as that rolls out over the summertime, he's going to point back to this time when he's able to say, look, I cut you a deal, just like at the beginning part of the war, and you did take it, and so now here you are. Unfortunately, that's the way I see this going. There's a lot of other wheels in motion here, especially with the 10-year agreement that President Biden and President Zelensky agreed to.
At the G7,
There's a very big warning sign coming out of Russia today, and I think we should look very carefully.
Well, Kamala Harris, I guess, is the one looking at it because Joe Biden's giving back for this Hollywood fundraiser. So she'll be in Switzerland. Moscow's not Switzerland. So what type of peace talks really is this peace summit if Russia's not at the table, Tony? And, you know, never-ending wars are never a good thing.
So Putin, I think, put it out before the peace summit. And obviously, we're highlighting the fact that he's not at the peace summit. Neither are the Chinese. The Chinese basically told Zelensky, no Russia, no China. So it basically is all the losers in the EU sweepstakes, all those folks who lost their elections. With is Kamala Harris a loser? I don't know. I'll leave that to the audience to judge. But they're showing up to talk about this. And, you know, look, Biden, with a choice between being with Zelensky and Gavin Newsom's hair chose the hair because the hair brings money. And I think that's why the choice was made. With that said, as Blaine pointed out, the Russians are prepared to go back on a full offensive. They basically said, hey, we'll take what we got, let's talk. And to me, that's a good place to start a dialogue. Will this administration take that as a chance to start wheeling and dealing and try to end this? No, they don't have the ability to speak the language of the Cold War, and I think we're going to see the conflict go on.
No, and to both of your points, Biden and Zelensky just signed this 10-year security agreement, and Zelensky calls it a historic day. I mean, clearly we are living in historic times. Let's turn a little bit to the Mideast because this is the Houthis at it again. The Iranian proxy hit a vessel that was owned by the Greeks. They're well funded now, thanks to Joe Biden. Before that, thanks to Obama. But it does seem like right now that things in the Middle East are also very much at a standstill. There is no ceasefire here, and there's continued attacks, and we have troops over there, Blaine.
Yeah, we are putting our troops at risk. We're putting our sailors at risk. We have not done really anything to stop 99 or 90% of the shipping through the Suez Canal. But the most important casualty here so far is the credibility of the United States Navy, because the ones planning and executing these operations from a decision standpoint are the academics in the office. The assertion or the idea that the United States Navy could not decimate, and I mean decimate with a very sharp edge to my tone, Sana'a and this ragtag Iranian-backed army is ridiculous. If we have the will, we could end this very, very soon. I hate it that we have sailors in harm's way when those who wear the uniform and have high rank have their hands tied, and it's absolutely disgusting. But our credibility around the world hurts every time we see this happen.
I can feel it in your voice too. I know how frustrating it must be. And Tony, I'll let you pick up on that, but also our final moments here, watching just off the coast of Florida and Cuba here, there's Russian warships and nuclear-powered submarines. So there you are. The seas today are more dangerous than ever under Joe Biden.
Right, and Biden's going the opposite direction. He's cutting the U.S. Navy at a critical time. We don't have the Aegis ships available to actually do anti-ballistic missile coverage everywhere we need to right now. That's a key issue, and again, they're not working. But back on the Middle East real quick, to that point that Blaine was saying, there needs to be a ground component of this. It could be the Marines to go in there and actually secure those sites where they're launching from. You can both. You need to do a hammer and anvil type attack. And as Blaine said, it's like we're choosing not to do that. We could do it, but we're literally funding both sides of this. By the way, every time I was just listening to Sal Cogliano of What's Up with Shipping, he's talking about every ship that goes through there has a 1% war insurance rate, $12 million per ship that wants to go through there. Oh, by the way, if they don't go through, they have to take and burn about that amount of fuel going the long way. So any way you look at it, this is having a huge economic downturn effect on global commerce. So it's I don't know why the Biden administration is choosing to do this way.
So many other topics I wanted to get into, including Saudi Arabia cutting the petrodollar. We're going to have to save for next week, guys, okay? We'll make it a date. Thank you so much, Tony and Blaine. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Still ahead, what's taking a bite out of your wallet and mine? Stick around.
Check this out. Check out ordering groceries with your hands full in an add to cart pose and on your study break. Check out Sick Prices in store and online. Order, pick up, deliver. Shop right. Check out Happy.
Progress comes in many flavors. You can fight for it with a pep ride, a bicycle, a surfboard, a polar bear, or a giant ice cream cone. You can make progress by doing the things you love. Make some mother trucking change. Progress comes in many flavors. You can fight for it with a paint brush, a bicycle, a surfboard, a polar bear suit, or a giant ice cream cone. You can make progress by doing the things you love. Make some mother trucking change.
Grandpa gave me the car, said I should talk to you. Not sure what to do with this thing, but I'm gonna make him proud. Did it myself. Wouldn't change a thing. Actually, I think it might be time for a change.
I think Grandpa would be proud.
I have